Thank you, my friends. So we not finished this seminar yet. Now we're going to continue to talk more about the part 2, which is the gun control. Gun control can be defined as the regulations to selling, to owning, or to using the guns. So that's for the definitions. Now I pass to my friends to talk more about the gun control.
So, here we again for the second part of my presentation, which is the law and regulations of gun in Malaysia and Thailand. Firstly, the law and regulation of gun in Malaysia is considered as restrictive. Why I said so? It is because we need to have the official permission from the authorities for everything, from owning a gun, carrying a gun, repair a gun, or even to inherit a gun. But then, there are some reasons that allow us to own a gun. Among them are to protect ourselves and properties, to protect our farm from pests, for sports, and for hunting. As for the firearm and ammunition restrictions, fully automatic weapon is prohibited in Malaysia, while semi-automatic weapon and handgun are not prohibited in Malaysia. On the other hand, long gun, such as rifles, is regulated by law. Now, let's move to the gun license application. The most important thing is that we need to fulfill the requirements, which are: first, we should not be younger than 18 years old. Second, we should be mentally stable. And third, we should not have any previous criminal record. Based on Section 4 of Armed Act 1960, it stated that we need to apply the gun license to the Chief Police Officer of the state. The flow is very easy. First, we need to fill up the necessary forms at the police station, followed by preparing some necessary documents such as copy of our IC, and lastly, just pass the documents to the district police headquarters. It sounds easy, right? But then the likelihood of our application to be approved is very difficult. The gun license also will expire on 30th June every year, which means that we need to renew our license every year. As for the gun license itself, it's very specific here in Malaysia to type and amount of firearms and ammunition. Okay. As for the records, the record of acquisition, possession, and transfer of firearm need to be retained in an official register, whereas the records of licensed gun dealer, manufacturing records, and state-owned firearm records need to be kept the same as the law in the United States of America. Moving to the last part of the law and regulations of gun in Malaysia, which is the punishment for violations of the Act. According to the Section 3 of the Arms Act 1960 and the Firearms Increased Penalty Act 1971, which is the revised version of the Arms Act 1960, it is stated that the penalty for unlawful possession of gun, as well as for those who concern for the people with people carrying a firearm, is that they may be subject to imprisonment up to 14 years and with whipping with not less than 6 strokes. While for the person who are caught trafficking firearms, they shall be punished either with death penalty or imprisonment for life with whipping with not less than 6 strokes. Lastly, the penalty for those who discharge or fire their gun to someone with intent to injure or kill that person, he shall be punished with death penalty. Secondly, let's discuss the law and regulations of gun in Thailand. The gun law in Thailand is also considered as restrictive. It is because they need to have a license for everything related to gun, including to possess a gun for keepsakes. But then, there are also some reasons that allow them to possess a gun, and the reasons are same as what we have here in Malaysia, which are for self-defense, protection of properties, sports, and hunting. As for the firearms and ammunition restrictions, fully automatic weapons and semi-automatic weapons are prohibited in Thailand, whereas handguns and long guns are regulated by law. In order to obtain a gun license in Thailand, they need to fulfill some requirements, and the requirements are as follows. First, they need to be not younger than 20 years old. Second, they should not be imprisoned to certain crime or discharged not less than 5 years from the date of discharge. Third, they need to be physically able. Fourth, they need to be mentally stable. Fifth, they need to be economically stable, where they must be employed and should have an income. And last one, they should have a permanent address and have their name listed in the home registration, specifically in the area where they want to apply for the gun license, at least for 6 months. Regarding the gun license, one gun license only for one gun, and the gun license will not expire as what we have here in Malaysia, which means that they don't have to renew the gun license annually. After they obtain the gun license, they should have their gun marked with specific markings, which indicates that that particular gun, can be used and can be possessed legally. Since having a permanent address is being a concern in obtaining a gun license in Thailand, so if a person who was if a person is granted with gun license and he moved to a new residence within the same district, he need to notify the local registrar the new address within 15 days of move. On the other hand, if the person moved to a new district, he need to notify the local registrar in the new residence within 15 days after arrival. Next, as for the records, all records need to be kept as what we have here in Malaysia. Next one, and the last part of my presentation, which is the punishments for violations of the Act. If someone is caught possessing, manufacturing, selling, using, ordering, or importing firearms without a license, he may be subjected to imprisonment in between 1 to 10 years and fine in between 2,000 to 20,000 baht. On the other hand, if a person use firearms and ammunition of type that is prohibited in the Act, it is considered as criminal. It is considered as criminal offense. So he shall be punished either with death punishment or imprisonment for life. I think that's all from me. Thank you. So I will pass this presentation to the next presenter.
Okay, the next one I will explain to you about the organization that support gun control. From our research, the organization that advocates gun control is International Action Network on Small Arms, which is called as INSA. This organization is a global movement that against gun violence that links hundreds of organizations from lots of countries working to stop the misuse of small and light weapons. INSA local member organizations can be found in Africa, the Americas, the Middle East, Asia, and the Pacific and Europe. The organization has special consultative status with the Economic and Social Council of the United Nations, and also these organizations um, are the official coordinator of civil society participation on small arms. And what is important in this organization is this organization stresses that private citizens must undergo a licensing process before they own their firearms, and that firearms must be unloaded away from ammunition.
My name is Sharifah Ichira binti Said Muhammad, matric number 1912716. I will discuss about the advantages and disadvantages of gun control and gun rights. Difficult access to guns lead to less violent crimes is one of the advantages of gun control. As we know that majority of violent crimes happen in the world are done by the aid of the firearms. So, gun control make it difficult for people to have access to firearms. Therefore, we reduce the violent crimes. For example, countries that have very tight gun control laws such as Malaysia have less violent crimes than countries such as United States where guns are easily accessible. Tendency for a gun to happen tendency for a crime to happen violently is higher when gun is involved in the crime rather than when a gun is not involved in the crime. The next advantages of gun control. Gun control can reduce the suicide rates. The more strict the gun control laws are, the more suicide rates can be reduced. Even though guns are not the most common method to use in committing suicide, it becomes the most lethal one. If you would like to see how gun control play a significant role in committing suicide, we can take a look at the case of Austria. The suicide rates in the country were reduced after 1997 when gun control laws was introduced and become very strict. Gun control can also reduce the homicide rates in a country. Countries with very restrictive gun control do not have as many homicide rates as countries that do not have this law. For example, in United Kingdom, where getting a license for a gun is one of the most difficult thing to achieve. If you are not a farmer, if you are not a policeman, or are not a soldier, it is very difficult for you to get a license on a gun. And of course, the homicide rate in the country, in the United Kingdom, are much lower than United States because in United States it is very easy for an ordinary people to own a gun. When there is the advantages of gun control, there is also several disadvantages of gun control. Firstly, banning people from being able to purchase gun legally will put criminal on business. When it becomes impossible for civilians to legally purchase guns, it will be easy for the black market to trade the guns like the harmful drugs. Usually, the dark web being a significant platform for the circulation of illegal weapons on the black market. Although the arms trade is small in volume compared to the other products, it also can give impact on international security. The role of dark web can be seen in 2016 Munich shooting in Germany, where a lone wolf terrorist used a weapon purchased on dark web for a mass shooting. The next disadvantages of gun control. Citizens don't have right to bear arms for their self-defense. Preventing citizens from being able to bear arms through restrictive gun control laws not only breaks the right for them to bear arms, but also prevent them from being able to defend themselves when need arises. This is because the dangerous event did not give an alarm before it happened. The criminal can easily enter the house and steal the things, and also the family might be killed if the house and the family do not own the gun. Access. The last disadvantage of gun control. Gun control do not prevent criminal from getting access to the gun. Criminal will still commit violent crimes whether the gun laws are tightened or not. For example, is uh, a mass shooting in Nova Scotia, Canada, where the gunman did not have a license to own or operate a firearm. Gun ownership in Canada are much stricter than in United States. This shows that guns don't kill the people, but it is the bad people who commit the violence and kill the other. If a criminal still want to commit a violent crime, he or she will always find a way to obtain the gun, regardless the gun, regardless the law, even the law is being restricted or not.